We're talking about, can women be preachers? Priscilla and Aquila. We see them mentioned a couple times by Paul. Priscilla must have had some kind of significant role that stood out over her husband. This is Acts 18, 24 through 26. Meanwhile, a Jew named Apollos was an eloquent speaker who knew the scriptures well. Now we know about Apollos. He was a great preacher. Paul talks about him later. He led many people to the Lord. He had been taught in the way of the Lord, and he taught others about Jesus with an enthusiastic spirit and with accuracy. However, he only knew about John's baptism. Priscilla and Aquila heard him preaching boldly in the synagogue. They took him aside and explained the way of God even more accurately. So that dynamic duo of preachers and church leaders took aside this other preacher and taught him, discipled him, helped him in his preaching. So if she ain't a preacher, but she's correcting a great preacher that's well known, was she out of line? I guess not. She had a pastoral responsibility. She's shepherding another preacher. You can't deny that that's what was going on there. They were often mentioned together, indicating a strong partnership. They hosted a church in their home. And here's the thing. The fact that Priscilla is sometimes mentioned before Aquila suggests she had a prominence in their joint ministry efforts. Definitely, that was really out of line of the time to put the wife's name in front of the husband. But that would suggest that maybe she was the preacher, and he was like in a support role. And that's okay, depending on what you're doing. I don't believe the woman should domineer over the man in the household. He is the head of the household biblically. But at the same time, there are things my wife can do that I can't do, but I can support her. I don't need to get jealous. I don't need to get prideful. I don't need to try to knock her down. It's a dynamic duo. And if you don't have a Priscilla and you're a pastor, you're a preacher, that's okay. Don't try to force your wife to be a preacher just because the women need to hear at the women's breakfast a women preacher. But if you have a Priscilla and you're an Aquila, let Priscilla shine. Don't try to knock her down. One reason why a lot of pastors won't let their wives preach, other than the denomination saying we'll revoke your license, is because either they don't have a Priscilla, and that's okay. Don't try to force her to be a preacher, or they are scared that it's going to be Priscilla and Aquila, and they get intimidated. And they want it to be Aquila and Priscilla, if you get what I'm saying. If you don't have a Priscilla, don't hate on those that do.